Yeah, so we'll begin. Good morning, everybody. We have 30.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good morning.
thank you. Thank you. There are 30 participants and others will join as we continue. Okay, so in the last lecture, we have seen what is research, what is the difference between research and research methodology. Then we have seen some important characteristics of research methodology. And then we have also seen what is a research method and what is the difference between research methodology and a research method. Okay. We have also seen the objectives, why people have to carry out research, what is the motivation for doing research. We have also seen some of the important limitations that are normally encountered, at least in the Indian situation, I would say. And many students also participated in this discussion. Okay, so today we are going to see what are the different types of research. Can you all see my slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just a minute. Yeah, so we have different types of research, and I'm going to tell you that based on different facets of research, we are trying to categorize research into different types. Okay, so for example, we have something called as descriptive research and analytical research. Okay, so descriptive research relies on fact finding, okay, to carry out surveys and describe something. Okay, it may be a process or any phenomenon that is observed. Okay, and here what is important to know is that the researcher does not control the variables. Okay, he's just trying to find the facts. Okay, describe something, and as such he's not performing an experiment like normally we carry out an experiment in the microbiology lab where we can set up certain parameters, okay, experimental parameters. So here is it's not like that. We just try to understand something the way it is. Okay, and as an example, I would say what are the preferences of people, what people prefer, which kind of dress people prefer, or where people would like to visit. Okay, so this is kind of finding the facts. Okay, the frequency of a particular. Hello, can you hear me? The frequency with which a particular genetic trait is observed, okay, in a particular population. Okay, now that is something that we cannot control. It is a naturally occurring phenomenon. Somebody is talking on the mic, so I want you to switch off the mic. And only when there is an interaction, if you want to ask me questions, you can switch on your mic. If I'm asking you a question and you are answering me, then also you can switch on your mic. Okay, otherwise it disturbs the class. Okay, then for example, the persistence of a particular disease, it may be an infectious disease or it may be a metabolic disease or whatever it is. The prevalence of that particular disease in a population is something which we cannot control. Okay, so again that comes in what is called as descriptive research. Okay, so the researcher essentially is trying to attempt to find the cause of a particular research. He may find out the cause, he may link it to some other observation. Okay, that's a different thing. But what essentially he's doing is he's trying to make a description. Okay, so that is descriptive research. And when we carry out analytical research, then it is like trying to find out the fact from the given, you can say, observations which come from the descriptive research. We try to analyze why something is so. Okay, so for example, if you are trying to find out the prevalence of a particular disease, then try to link that to, for example, flood hit areas. Okay, if you can find a link between the disease prevalence and some natural phenomenon, natural calamity that is happening in a particular area. Okay, so that is called as analytical research. So you are essentially analyzing the facts. Okay. Then coming to another kind of classification of research, that is applied research and fundamental research. Okay, so applied research is where you try to carry out some experiments in order to eliminate some problem or reduce the severity of a particular problem which is there. It could be in a particular locality, it could be in the society, or some industry related problem, or it could be a national problem. Okay, so when you are trying to find out a solution to a particular problem, that becomes an applied research. Or you may come out with something, some product, okay, or process which is of benefit to the people ultimately, okay, or of benefit to the consumers. So then that becomes something called as the applied research. And fundamental research is much different than applied research. It is concerned with a natural phenomenon. Okay, it is like gathering knowledge for knowledge's sake. Okay, you are not trying to find out whether it is going to be useful for the people or not very useful for the people. It's like, for example, you find out how many teeth a tiger has. Okay, it doesn't really have anything to do with your application. Okay, just for the sake of finding out some information, you are trying to gather that knowledge or information. Okay, that is also called as pure research. It is also called as basic research, and it is also called as fundamental research. Okay, the purpose of this could be to formulate a theory, okay, like Newton's theory of gravity. Okay, and that could lead to some kind of a generalization. Okay, so that is what is called as fundamental research. Then we go to another classification of research, another type of research, I would say, that is
Slide nahi dikhi, sir.
okay, I'll share that slide once again. This problem has been happening very often. Yeah, can you see that now?
Yes, sir.
Just a minute. Okay, so qualitative research and quantitative research. Okay, in the qualitative research, you are just trying to describe something in terms of the quality. Just as an example, I have written here why people think. Okay, or maybe somebody wants to know how people think, the way people think. Okay, that has nothing to do with numbers or the quantity. Okay, for example, again, if it is a microbiology research, then one would like to find out what are the different types of chemicals or polymers which are present in a bacterial cell wall. Okay, so we are not trying to quantify the things, we are just trying to find out what are the different chemicals present in the bacterial cell wall, what is the composition of the cell wall. Okay, so that is qualitative research. But then when you find out the quantity of every type of chemical which is present in the cell wall, then that would be called as quantitative research. Okay, so you are measuring something. Of course, it should be measurable. Okay, so if it is measurable, then you measure that, and then you come out with some kind of answer, you come out with some kind of analysis. Okay, so again, as an example, I have written here, how many people in a group think in a particular manner. So earlier the question was how people think, and now the question is how many people in the group think in a particular manner, and what are the different factors which make people think the way they are thinking. Okay, so that is, if you are making the list of the factors, then that would be, of course, quantitative research. Okay, and then another classification of research is like this. It is either a conceptual research or it could be empirical research. Okay, so when we say empirical research, that essentially means that you are performing certain experiments, okay, and it is based upon observation. Okay, so observation is something that you can make, and you can also make other people see the observation. Okay, so that is called empirical research. It is data based. Okay, and then it can be verified by experimentation, it can be verified by your own observation, and you make other people also observe it, right? Conceptual research is not like that. Conceptual research is based on some abstract ideas. It is carried out by thinkers or philosophers. Okay, and they may develop new ideas from that conceptual research. Okay, may I request you to switch off your mic because somebody's mic is making some noise. Okay. Then in empirical research, again, the most important characteristic here is that the variables are under the control of the researcher. Okay, the researcher can manipulate the things. He can manipulate in the sense that he can design the experiment. Okay, so he can control what are the different variables. Okay, he can control the levels of those variables, and then he will find out what happens because of that, because of the change in those variables. Okay, that is called empirical research. That is actually the research which is carried out by the PhD students in microbiology or any life science discipline, or it could be chemistry or physics or whatever it is. Okay, so that is the kind of research we do in the laboratory. Then coming to what is the meaning of research for different type of people. For different people, the meaning of research is different. For a PhD student, for example, it could be his career which is involved. Okay, so careerism is an important meaning for that student. Okay, for a professional, a scientist, for example, who is working in a national laboratory, okay, or who may be working in the R&D department of a company, okay, of an industry, then for that professional, research is the source of livelihood, because if he doesn't do research, then he will not be able to feed his own family. Okay. Then for philosophers, it is the outlet of new ideas and insights. Okay, for the philosopher, it is just a way to put up a new idea, okay, describe something new. Okay, then for literary men, like in Marathi, we call them as sahittik. Okay, for such people, research is a creative work. Okay, and for the intellectual people, it is the generalization of new theories, like the example I've gave of Newton. Okay, Newton gave the theory of gravity, isn't it? So that is the work of intellectual people. Okay, so what exactly, where you stand in this particular thing, that you have to find out for yourself. Are you you may be a PG student or a PhD student. Okay, yeah, in a short while, maybe in a few years, or maybe in 1 or 2 years, you will probably enter into the field of research, okay, as a profession, isn't it? And then you may also go ahead and become an intellectual person, and you will be probably able to generalize a new theory. Okay, so that is how your journey in research is going to be. Yes, this is going to tell you about what is the significance of research. Okay, so very important thing is, very often we say that doubt is better than overconfidence, because I hope everybody is back. There was an internet issue. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll share my presentation again. Yeah, so I was telling you that doubt is better because if you don't have any doubt, you're not going to carry out any experiment. Okay. In order to test your doubt, you are going to do something, some experiment, and that experiment or that inquiry will lead to invention, and that invention could be very useful for the people. Okay, so that is why it is said that you should have some doubt in your mind. Okay, like the teachers, when they are in the classroom, they tell you to ask questions. The purpose of that is, if you ask questions, then it means actually two things. One is that you are attentive. Okay, and the other is, if you ask questions, then you are going to understand something in a better way. Okay, so doubting is like asking questions in research. Okay, research facilitates decision making by policymakers. Okay, so if some research is carried out, for example, the pollution levels in New Delhi, if that research is not carried out, if the pollution level is not known, then the government is not going to make any changes, isn't it? Any policy decision is not going to be taken by the government. Okay, so that is also an important thing. If research is done and if it is put before the policy makers, then they would have to take some decision on what steps are to be taken to control something, some problem. Okay, for example, here again I have written government policies for farmers. Okay, what kind of you can say incentives must be given to the people, for the below poverty level people, or allocation of the nation's resources. So all these policy decisions are taken by the government based upon some sound research, okay, or evidence. Then government funding, if you know probably that government gives funds for carrying out research, okay, and for that the researcher has to submit a research proposal to the government, okay. But then the government is going to ask you probably that is this a very new research you are going to carry out, or already something has been done in that area, right? So if you have already done something, okay, something, and you know that the things are going to work properly, then the government is more confident in providing that funds, okay, because government is also afraid that if they provide the funds and if the results are not proper, if the outcome is not as per the expectation, then that money of the government will be wasted, isn't it? So if you have done already some experiment and you can tell the government that yes, this is the evidence that we can complete the work successfully, then the government is going to fund that kind of research. Okay, any questions so far? Am I going too fast to the slides? I hope everybody is understanding this. Anuradha Mahamuni, Satish Taide.
Yes, sir.
Sonali,
Yes,
is that clear?
Yes.
Because
Yes, sir.
this is a mixed population of participants. We have research students also. Research students are sparing their precious time to attend these lectures. Otherwise, they were busy in their own research work. Okay, and that is why I have to little bit hurriedly go through the slides. Okay, but wherever there is a question or wherever you think that more discussion should be carried out, then I would spend some more time on that particular topic. Okay. So this is about the flow sheet I was talking in the last lecture. This is telling you about what is research methodology. You start with the research topic, okay, or a particular concept that is there in your mind, okay, and then you would like to go through the literature, find out what is the information already available, okay, update yourself with that information, and then you start your planning, okay. So if you know that at to what level people have already carried out the research, then you would go for the next level of your experiments, okay. So you plan the experiments and then you design your experiment, and then you actually execute the experiments the way you have designed it, okay. And after that, once the experiments are done, then you would make your observations, you will note down your observations, right? And then you would carry out the analysis of your data, okay, what the data means to you, what the numbers tell you, that you would like to find out. And after the analysis, then you will carry out your interpretation, okay. And then based upon the interpretation, you would either want to again set up new experiments, okay. So the output of your experiment becomes the input of the next experiment. That is very important in research, okay. In the industry terms, fortunately, I should tell you that I was working in a private industry in the R&D department, and there I could learn this particular term, which is called as design input and design output. Okay, so whatever is the output of one experiment becomes the input of the next experiment. So that is the thing which I learned in the industry. Okay, now what is important to know here is that if your basic assumption was false, if your hypothesis was faulty, okay, or if your experiments are not designed the way they should be designed properly, or even if the experiments were designed properly, but the actual conduction of the experiments was faulty somewhere, there were errors in your experiments, you did not put the proper controls in the experiment, okay, or if the interpretation was faulty. So if anything goes bad here, one thing or multiple things together, then that would probably result in failure in the research. Okay, so you should be able to find out what went wrong. Okay, troubleshooting is also very important. Not that everybody will do everything very correctly, isn't it? But then you should be able to find out what went wrong and at what place. Even that is something which I learned in the industry. Okay, so if you are noting down everything in your record book, then it should be possible to find out what went wrong, or your PhD supervisor or your research guide will tell you what went wrong. If you are telling him everything, if you are showing him all your documents on your or the notes that you have maintained, and it should be not be very difficult to find out where the problem lies. Okay, and once you find out the problem, then you would redesign your experiment or re-execute your experiment and then come out with the proper results. Okay, so this is another way of putting down the research methodology, okay, in a flow sheet form. I hope you can read the font. Okay, it looks a bit of hazy. Okay, so first thing is you define your research problem. That is number one. And then you review your concepts and theories. You go through the literature. Okay, that is literature search. Okay, and once you are done with that, once you are confident that you know most of the things and you can now carry out the experiment, then you formulate your hypothesis and carry out your research. Okay, so execute your research, right? So that is the fourth step. And after that, you collect the data. Okay, after your data collection, you analyze the data. Now, once you analyze the data, then you would probably again want to conduct some experiment. Okay, so you go back here. This reverse arrow here tells you that you are going back, you are reconducting the experiment again, and then once again you analyze your data. Okay, if you are not satisfied with the data, or if your data points out that something else must be done, then you once again plan your experiment. So this is the design output and this is the design input. Okay, these are industry terms which I'm using, right? And then this reverse arrow also means the feedback. This F stands for feedback. Okay, so once you get some results, then these results are to be, they have to be observed carefully. They have to be analyzed, and then you can redesign your experiment. So that is called as the feedback, right? And then once you do all that analysis, then comes your final interpretation. And after the final interpretation, you would probably like to report your results. Either you publish a paper or you present your work in a conference or some scientific, you can say, gathering, right? Or maybe you can also go for protection of your intellectual property, that is patenting or making a design, okay, or making a copyright of your work, right? So that is the end. That is not the end actually. So once you do that, once you publish one research paper, then your research paper definitely you write somewhere in the research paper that in the future you are going to do something. Okay, and for that something, once again you define the research problem. Okay, and you go through this research flow sheet once again. Okay, over and over again till whatever unlimited time, I would say. Okay, and at some places here I have written double F here. Double F stands for fast forward or feed forward. Feed forward, it means that by anticipating the results. Okay, here look at this point here, number 4, designing the research. So when you are designing the research, you are actually visualizing what is going to happen. Okay, you should be in a position to kind of predict that either you will get this result, or you will get that result, or you will get something else. Okay, so if you get this result, what are you going to do? If you get that result, what are you going to do? Okay, so that kind of planning should always be there in the mind. And therefore I have written here feed forward. Okay, some students want to join the class, so I'm admitting them. Yes, and then we come to a very important part, and that is how to decide the topic of research. Okay, so here are some of the criteria which I have written based on which we would like to, select a particular topic of research. I have 10 minutes remaining for this presentation. This is a Zoom platform which is unsubscribed, and therefore I get only 40 minutes. Okay, of course, my presentation will not end after that. So after 10 minutes are over, I'll give you probably a 2 or 3 minute break. And after that, we shall join once again. And then I would continue for another about 15 minutes. Okay, because after that, the students are having their lectures. Okay, so 15 minutes more after this presentation gets over. Yes, any question to anybody? Can you not see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess that. Okay. So now please switch off your mic. Is that Bhim Bhushan? Vipul? Okay. Yeah, so today many research students have also joined our class. That's a good thing. So coming back to this, my slide about how to decide the topic of interest. So the foremost thing is either your own interest. Vipul, can you switch off your mic? Vipul. Okay. So there are the two important components of research are the research student and the student supervisor or the guide. Okay, it could be a MSc project guide or PhD guide or postdoctoral guide or whatever it could be. Okay, so the two people are important. The interests of both of them are very important. Okay, and therefore either the guide would tell the student to select a particular topic of his or her own interest, or the student would say, sir, I do not know much about this, and therefore please guide me, please help me in selecting the research topic. And then the guide would suggest you a couple of topics, or maybe 4 or 5 different topics for you to choose. Okay, or in sometimes when a student comes to me for the topic of research, then I normally tell the student to find out about 3 to 5 topics of his or her interest. Okay, so they browse through the internet or they go to the library, they read the journals. Okay, and then they come up with some few topics, they come up with a list, and then from the list we decide what is to be done. Now, how do we decide that what is to be done? So that would depend upon the following things. Okay, either it could be a social problem, okay, or a local problem, I would say, say in the Marathwada region or in Aurangabad region, what is the current problem which the people are facing, and then can you help them out with that problem? Okay, so that could be your topic of research. Okay, and that would of course depends upon the gravity of the particular problem, right? Or maybe the student comes up with a very novel idea. Okay, and then the guide also is very happy and he says that, okay, this is something very interesting. Okay, now many people have not worked on this, and so let us explore that particular topic. Okay, whether we'll get the results or not, that is not very important. How to present the result is very important. Okay, so we start with something which is very unique or novel. Okay, then one more criterion for selecting the research topic is we find out from the literature what is the prior research which is already done on that particular topic. Okay, so if many people have already done that particular research, then there is no fun in reinventing the wheel, and therefore you would like to find out something, some offshoot of that research. Okay, something which is related to that work. Okay, but maybe many people do not know about it, or people have not explored that particular project. Okay, so that is why we go for finding out what is done in the earlier work. Okay, and then whether there is any scope for you to either go into the deeper understanding of that particular area, or you find out offshoot of that particular area. Okay, then sometimes it could be that you have a certain vision. Okay, you find out something which may be very important in the future. Okay, and that also could be your research topic. And then you, based upon all these different criteria, you make a hypothesis. Okay, start with a hypothesis, and then based on that hypothesis, you would like to define your goals or define your objectives. Okay, the objective could be a few objectives, like 2 objectives or 3 objectives or 5 different objectives which are interlinked. Okay, interconnected. Okay, so once you satisfy the first objective, then you go for the next objective, and then you would go for the third one, and so on. Okay, so that is how you select the research topic. Now, is there anybody who would want to add something to this? Okay, so till this time I have been talking a lot. And now I want you all to interact and tell me what could be, is there any other criterion for selecting a research topic? So particularly the research students who are already carrying out the research, their own research, they would probably have something to say from their own experience. How they selected the topic. So if I ask this question to Mehvish, is Mehvish there in the class?
Sir, availability of resources could be one of the thing
Wonderful.
when you are
Wonderful.
going to check.
Yeah, who is that? Who answered that?
Suchita Bharambe.
Oh, yes, yes, madam. Suchita, madam. Just a minute. I would like to share this once again. Yeah. So let me put that in words here so that everybody will be able to appreciate this kind of this point which you have given. The availability, availability of resources and also probably time also, because for MSc students, time is an important factor. They have to complete the research work in one semester, isn't it? And so the research topic should be such that it should be completed in that particular time. Okay. Again, one more important thing which I would like to add here, it should be something which is doable. Doable. Is that right? Grammatically, I do not know whether this word is correct. Okay, but something which can be done easily in the sense after proper planning and all. But if something, if you are trying to find out what is there on the moon, okay, microbiology students, whether there are bacteria on the moon, then that is something which I would not advise at this point of time, because we do not have the means to go to the moon and collect the samples and something like that. Of course, if the sample is available, then you can go for it. Okay, I think in Sinnar somewhere they have that small rock taken from the moon. Is that correct? Is my information correct? I do not know. In Sinnar, there is a Gargoti museum. And in that museum, they have the lunar rock, which they have kept. So if the museum people are able to give you that sample and you can find out something, explore that, then it is possible. But otherwise, it is a difficult topic. Okay. Anything else if you want to add?
Sir, this is Peshwe madam, and I would like to add to this.
Wonderful.
Availability of financial assistance also matters a lot.
That is a very, very important point which you have mentioned. Financial resources. Unfortunately, I have been struggling with this particular problem for many years. I have not been able to procure any research funding for my students. And therefore, whenever the students comes to me for research, I advise them, or rather I try to probe whether that student is able to complete the PhD work with his or her own resources, financial resources. Okay. Fortunately, some students do agree that they will be able to complete the work without any grant, okay, or without any project funding. That's how it goes sometimes. But yes, if you have the research research funding, then things become a little more easy for you. You can purchase the chemicals, you can purchase equipment from the grant, and that makes the things very easy for you. And you can go to greater depths in your own research field. Okay, so that is the advantage. So very important point, madam has mentioned. Anything else if you can add to